Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV, Mr. Marco D'Angelo over here on my right at Marco in Vegas. We're preseason top 25 previewing it today, guys. Number 14, Washington. Now, if you want to check out how the rest of the Pac-12 is doing, you can check out our Oregon and Utah videos. But this one's all about the Huskies. Ralph, I'll start with you.
Huskies, win total of 9.5.
That seems a little high.
I have Washington finishing third.
Oof.
In their division or in the Pac-12?
In the division.
Ooh.
No way.
Yeah.
Behind?
Oregon and Washington State.
Ooh.
I like Washington State. This team's returning 9 starters. Just returning 2 on the defensive side. Last year, you had 16 starters back with an all-conference quarterback. Yes, Jacob Eason is great. I understand that. But again, when you are losing your number 1 running back, Gaskins, you're losing Browning, you're losing 6 of your top 7 tacklers. I will say this: the schedule favors them because the crossover games. Utah, toughest game, home. Okay. USC, toughest game, home, and they go to Arizona, and they host Oregon.
Okay.
So they have a shot to get into it. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to a couple games, who wins that Oregon-Washington game and the Apple Cup. So, again, I have to make a stand, and when you're predicting winners, you have to predict someone to win. We can't come on every video and say, oh, I like this team and they're going to do this, and then at the end you figure out that you can't have these records. So I go through every game, I project who I'm going to have win or lose, and I have them finishing third or tied for second with Washington State. So to me, again, the team's fine. The team recruits great. They only have 4 away games. They have 5 home games, which in the Pac-12 is favorable. They have a favorable schedule. But I just cannot back a team with 9 returning starters and 2 on the defensive end against teams of Washington State and Oregon that have much more talent back.
All right, Marco. Rebuttal?
Well, first of all, Kelly, you know how when we go out, all of us like we did the other night, and we always joke that, Lori disappears, my wife, and when Ralph doesn't anything. I sent you my notes. You must have been over last night and got my notes because everything he said with the crossover.
I thought you were going to argue with me.
I thought he was going to argue with you too.
I am going to argue with you, but most of the points that you brought out is why I like Washington as far as the schedule.
Yeah, no question.
The schedule, they have the best setup for the schedule with all of those teams that they catch at home that they don't have to play on the road, and the fact there is one sandwich game in there. And we talked about this before on a different video when we were talking about somebody else. But when they play Stanford and Arizona in back-to-back weeks, that Arizona game, that's going to be one of those ones where if they win their 2 games before that and win Stanford and then have Arizona, that's the fat and sassy.
Yeah, they go at BYU, USC, at Stanford, at Arizona. That's their 4-game stretch.
Okay.
Third game,
then
so Arizona's third game.
Then they have Oregon after Arizona.
But after a bye.
But,
so they're going into the bye, like he said, fat and sassy. It's somewhere of maybe a look-ahead spot, right? Hey, we can't wait to get through the bye week. We just got through this gauntlet, and we got Oregon on deck, so it makes complete sense to me.
I can't argue the part of the defense. This defense is going to have growing pains early. Only 2 returning starters. But Peterson's one of the best coaches in the country, okay?
And he's got a great defensive coordinator.
And he does have a great defensive coordinator, but you look at where the Washington program has come in the last 5 years. They are now, as far as the Pac-12 goes, they're almost like an Alabama for the Pac-12. They're not reloading. They're not rebuilding. They're reloading.
I think Oregon had a higher recruiting class than them.
Oregon's been.
I mean, so that's your rival in your division. Plus, Washington State's all of a sudden as good as you.
But I like Jacob Eason. I know Jake Browning was there for 4 years, but he put up big numbers. But the knock on him was he couldn't win the big game.
He couldn't at all.
All right? I think Eason is. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school. Everybody wanted him. He went to Georgia and unfortunately lost his job, didn't want to sit there, come back. The kids, they recruited him. They wanted him to go to Washington. I think he's going to have a big year, and I think this is going to be one of those teams where, when they talked about the Texas A&M video, Washington and over. The offense is going to score points.
I was just getting ready to ask you on the totals.
He's got all of his big 3 offensive weapons, wideouts back. This offense is going to move the football.
Losing Gaskins is big, though. So if a running back's going to have to come out of the fold, a young running back, for them to have that success.
They do have a couple guys there that they're high on. We know, though, that running backs, in college more important, obviously, than in the NFL, but still, you can plug and play with the systems. I think this offense is going to move this year, and then later in the year, the defense will get better, and their tougher games, come after a month. They have the soft schedule at the beginning of the season, which works out in their advantage. I think this team still wins the Pac-12 North.
Ralph, give me a little TNA on Washington.
Chris Peterson, 1-11 against the spread.
Ooh.
Off a straight-up loss as a favorite. So when he does get upset, he's not the guy to bounce back the next week.
All right.
People think that they lose a few games. That goes back to the Boise days. So it's both programs.
And I'll throw a reason in for that. And it goes back to Boise and it goes to Washington. Because the Pac-12 is perceived as a weak conference, once you lose that first game, that's the bubble burst.
Yeah.
You can't.
You're not getting in the 14 playoff.
Yeah, and go back to Boise, same thing there, because they were out of the smaller conference. They couldn't, for them to be in the conversation for anything, they had to run the table.
Agree.
All right, great stuff, guys. Make sure you like and share our videos. Want to share some of your thoughts on a game, maybe give us some feedback or even suggest a video, leave us a comment below and be eligible to get a free week of service.